Hi, this is Michael Anthony Peroutka, Anne Arundel County Councilman for District 5, analyzing Bill number 1-15. The public hearing and vote on this bill was scheduled for February 2, 2015. This is an ordinance concerning the current expense budget of the Board of Education, whereby additional appropriations are requested from unanticipated revenues. And also of interest is the fact that this bill was introduced as an emergency measure. So let's go to our 10 questions. Question 1, again, is designed to determine if the bill violates the U.S. Constitution. In my view, there is a significant constitutional issue here. Article 1, Section 8 of the U.S. Constitution does not grant any power to the federal government authorizing any funding for education. The 10th Amendment, the U.S. Bill of Rights, reserves the power and authority for education to the states and to the people. Therefore, the acceptance of these federal funds rests on an illegality and brings the county into complicity with that illegality. While I thoroughly understand that this is nothing new, the simple fact that it has been going on for many years does not make it legal or valid in any way. Question 2 is designed to determine if the bill violates the Constitution of Maryland. Well, the Maryland Declaration of Rights, Article 43, authorizes the legislature to, quote, encourage the diffusion of knowledge and virtue through the judicious system of general education, unquote. Additionally, Article 8, the education article, directly pertains to the authority and the funding at the state level. Question 3 is designed to determine if the bill violates the Anne Arundel County Charter. Well, Section 551 of the Charter covers the composition and administration of the Department of Education. There are two issues of particular concern regarding the school board. One is the legislation regarding school board appointments, and the other is what is known as maintenance of effort, or MOE, funding. Question 4 asks whether the proposed legislation is in accordance with biblical standards for law and government. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 to 9 clearly describes that the parents are responsible and accountable for the upbringing and education of their children. And therefore, the current configuration of the Anne Arundel County School Board is not in accordance with the law of God. Since parents have no control over the election of the school board, no decision-making authority for curriculum and for personnel, and no oversight on the school budget, the current system violates God's standards. Question 5 asks if the legislation negatively impacts citizens' rights. Well, at the county level, the Board of Education is the largest expenditure of taxpayer funds and the one institution that directly impacts most citizens. And that maintenance of effort, that MOE, by design requires an increasing level of funding each year for education. Therefore, more taxes must be collected to support the ever-increasing budget in accordance with the state legislation. The MOE, therefore, has serious negative implications on the economic freedom and the personal property of the taxpayers. Additionally, because the school board members and the superintendent are appointed at the state level, this violates the right of self-determination for each Anne Arundel County resident, thereby negatively affecting the personal liberty of the citizens. And finally, because the curriculum is not under the control of the parents, the personal liberty of each parent is also diminished because many subjects are not being presented with the original intent of the Maryland Declaration of Rights, Article 43, as we said, for the diffusion of knowledge and virtue. Okay, question 6 asks whether the timeframes were adequate for appropriate review and consideration of the legislation. And inasmuch as the superintendent actually did testify and answered questions at the January 13th, 2015 work session, I don't see a problem here. Question 7 asks whether the terms used in the legislation are clearly defined. Well, the legislation does not include any defined emergency, which would require that the bill be presented as emergency ordinance. If there is an issue necessary for the immediate preservation of the public peace, health, safety, and welfare, it was not presented to the County Council when the Board of Education testified at the working session. Question 8 concerns personnel appointments and does not apply in this case. Question 9 asks whether funds are being generated by the legislation. Well, the Board of Education is requesting an amendment to the current expense budget in order to recognize and appropriate $44,377,000 of additional funds. The funds are $2 million and such in restricted federal grants on $42 million of federal grants, local revenues, and restricted revenues from the Internal Service Fund. So question 10 asks whether the legislation calls for spending, and if so, whether that spending satisfies a cost-benefit analysis. Well, a fiscal note was provided by the Anne Arundel County Office of Budget, and the testimony was provided by the Board of Education personnel, including the superintendent. A general description of appropriation categories was provided, but lacked detail for such a large expenditure. As for a cost-benefit analysis, I really can't provide one. Serious questions are made when the county elected officials from both the executive and legislative branches have no authority, oversight, or control for $1.3 billion of taxpayers' funds. To summarize, a large percentage of the funding for this bill seems to be from federal grants and therefore not in accordance with the U.S. Constitution. Further, the Board of Education is of great concern for two reasons. One, its budget is the largest expenditure of taxpayer funds at the county level. And two, Anne Arundel County Public Schools provide instruction to nearly 80,000 students. So regardless of whether the county resident has a child in the public school system or not, their tax dollars are used to fund this $1.3 billion annual budget. I believe that county elected officials must perform due diligence and oversight of funds that are used for the general welfare. And the determination of the school board membership is a long-standing controversy in Anne Arundel County, going all the way back to the 1820s. The current Anne Arundel County delegation of the Maryland General Assembly is reviewing this issue for the 2015 general session. Now, the second concern is far more wide-ranging and will not be addressed fully in this review. Parents are responsible for the education of their children and as such are the main stakeholders, yet they are not included in the administration of the Board of Education. It is their children being educated. It is their money funding $1.3 billion annually. The school buildings are in their communities. While parents do have the opportunity to testify at public hearings and participate in the local parent-teacher association meetings, a redress of grievances is not the same as having authority over the education of their children. For all these reasons, I could not support Bill 115, and I abstained from voting. As a final note, homeschooling is one viable option that exists in our county, and many parents do take advantage of this option, which serves as an opportunity to return the authority to educate children back to their parents. I hope this review of my analysis of Bill 115 has been helpful to you. This is Michael Anthony Peroutka, Anne Arundel County Councilman for District 5, and I thank you.